And welcome to the November 17th, 2022 Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Notice has been posted at the Star Ledger, the Montclair Times, and in the lobby of this building. And we are being streamed live on Channel 34 now. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Tom to call the roll.
Ms. Bennett?
Present.
Mr. Hindman is excused this evening. Mr. Rooney?
Here.
Mr. Reimnitz?
Here.
Mr. Graham?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yeah.
Mr. Connolly?
Here.
And Mr. Burr is also excused this evening.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes from October 13th, 2022. Does anyone have any additions or amendments to that? The one thing that I noticed, Tommy, on page 4, line 14, the last sentence, which says the commission was not concerned with the use of vinyl windows on the rear elevation. I think it should say the installed vinyl windows on the rear of the building will remain, because we were concerned with them. We debated. It's okay. So having no additions to this, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think we're all able to vote, right?
I have to abstain, yeah.
Okay, so Mike is abstaining. We have 2 resolutions tonight. One is for it's resolution 22-36 for 2426 Church Street, Gumdrop Hairdressers. Has everyone had a chance to read the resolution? Would somebody make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I think, Mike, you're abstaining.
I abstain, yeah.
Okay. And the second resolution is Resolution 2022-38 for 620 Valley Road. Is that when everyone received it and been able to read? Read it? Okay. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And abstain.
Mr. Graham is abstaining. There is a change in agenda for tonight. The Lackawanna will not be heard. We're going to discuss it. We're going to have the presentation next week at our, next month rather, at the December 15th meeting. And we were assured that we'll have some visual aids then, which is good. The other thing that's a change is the Label Street nomination report will not be discussed tonight. It will be discussed next month. I am writing that report, and I'm already up to 30 pages with additional appendices. So I had a death in the family. I couldn't finish it for tonight, but I'll definitely finish it for December 15th. So with those 2 changes in the agenda, we will go on to public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to speak? Public comment tonight? No? All right, seeing that nobody would like to speak, we'll close that session. And then we have no old business, but we have 3 recommendations under new business. So the first one is a Board of Adjustment referral. It's application 2819, 108 and 110 Orange Road in Montclair Historical Society. So would you like to come up? Who's speaking for that application, please? So while you're getting set up, we're just going to go over the committee reports. The Minor Applications Committee met twice this month. We met on November 3rd, and we met today. There were a few applications that were approved. I'm just going to run through them. Application 2022-41 was approved. Application 2022-40 is still outstanding. We'll be hearing that hopefully within the next month. Application 2022-43 is approved with conditions. Application 22-42 is approved with conditions. Application 2022-45, which we heard today, was approved with conditions. Education and outreach, we have two things that the HBC was instrumental in this month. The Upper Montclair train station, we were able to get a stop work order on that. They did not pull a permit for the alteration. They were trying to enclose the outside patio. And also on 105 North Upper Mountain, which is a state-listed house. It's the artist William Cooper house. We have a stop work order on that because they're taking down the original stucco. We did for the letter of acceptance for the Commuter district. We've gotten a letter of acceptance from the state, HE 21-007. The grant deliverables were in compliance with the agreement, and they were accepted by SHPO. So we're going to discuss that further later on. And then, Tommy, would you just like to make a brief report on the new application for the grant for 2023?
Sure. So we've begun the application for the Certified Local Government Grant and Aid Program. It will be a continuation of the commuter area survey, which we completed the first part of just recently, as Kathleen said. With the funding and time restrictions, we weren't able to survey every property in the district, and so this, if we're given grant funding, we'll continue and survey the rest of the properties.
And that number is 245, correct?
It's about 220 properties, and the first effort was 436 properties were surveyed.
And you've set up the state has a new format, which is all online.
Correct. It's called SAGE is the new program. So the application is submitted electronically, and it's due at the end of January, so we have some time.
Okay, good. Thank you. Does anybody else have any other committee reports? No?
No.
No. Okay, great. So we'll hear our first application, which is application number 20, this is the Montclair, right, application 2819, 108, and 110 Orange Road. And could you just identify yourselves for the record, please?
Sure. So Angelica Diggs, I'm the Executive Director of the Montclair History Center.
Jackson Bangs of Sionis Architecture.
Thank you. Okay, so we all know this property, the Montclair History Center, excuse me. And the subject property is composed of 2 lots containing 3 total structures, including the Israel Crane House, the Nathaniel Crane House, and the Clark House. The Clark House and the Nathaniel Crane House are included in this project. The scope of the application, there are a number of things that you're going to discuss tonight that you're presenting, and it's our job to make recommendations to go to the zoning board. So with that, would you like to start?
Certainly. Sure. So we'll be presenting a PowerPoint presentation tonight, which contains photos as well as colored versions of the drawings that we submitted in advance.
So just a minute. I know I asked you to introduce yourselves, but we have to swear you in as well.
Right.
So, who does that? I guess I'll do it.
You can do it.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth? And all, who's testifying?
The two of us.
Okay.
No, I'm just clicking.
Okay, all right. So, for the record, the 2 witnesses have been sworn in. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So to recap, the property is located here in the R1 zone. It contains approximately 1.9 acres, and it's improved with several elements. There we
Sorry,
go.
Jackson, is the microphone light on? I'm just.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Oh, guess it was too far away. As you all know, the property contains the Israel Crane House and historic YMCA, the Nathaniel Crane House, the Clark House, which contains the administrative offices for the History Center, as well as several outbuildings, including a garage, a greenhouse, a gazebo, and several small agricultural buildings associated with the farm. Slide. Here's a few photos of the property, including the narrow driveway that currently accesses the parking area, the existing ramp to the Israel Crane House, which is the only building of the three that's currently accessible, as well as a couple photos just of the property in general. Slide. These are some photos of the Clark House, which is one of the two buildings we're looking at tonight. Slide. And these are some photos of the Nathaniel Crane House, which is the other one we're going to be looking at. Angelica is going to briefly describe how the History Center uses the property now.
Sure. I know many of you are familiar with us already, so I'll be pretty brief. At the Montclair History Center, so our three locations, as Jackson mentioned, so we have the Crane House and Historic YWCA that functions as a museum and program meeting space. The Nathaniel Crane House functions as our visitor center and museum store. We also have the Clark House, which functions as our offices and also our institutional archives, historic archives and research library that the public accesses very frequently. We are also home to the site location of Montclair Community Farms. The farm is a separate organization in partnership with us, and they have a micro farm with chickens on our location. So they also access our grounds and sites on a regular basis, and that's how we work together. So who do we serve? Our primarily demographic, very heavily so, is youth through senior adults, but a lot of youth. We get thousands of kids for field trips come through our site, including this year. We'll be seeing upwards of 2,500 kids from Nork second grade alone. We also service for on-site things for programs and events. The farm as well, too. It does a lot of youth service programs. They also service senior adults in the community because the farm's mission is for affordable food access. So our grounds and buildings are continuously busy all year round. And how our grounds are used, we use the outdoors as much as we use the indoors. Very frequently, we do hold programs and events outside, as well as in the buildings. And in particular, Clark House is one of our busiest locations because not only is it our office and archives, it also hosts a tenant suite of businesses upstairs, and it's also used as the farm's office space. So it's a very heavily trafficked area. So our challenges, which is what brings us here tonight, has to do with accessibility and inclusion for our sites. The Nathaniel Crane House and Clark Houses have no accessibility into them, as Jackson already noted, particularly and also in our Clark House offices, which is the most heavily used program space, and our day-to-day operations has no accessible bathroom. So that's been an issue for us. And the driveway, which is, as you saw that image, is for both directions of traffic. It is the main way to access the site. So that is a safety issue and hazard for us, as pedestrians and cyclists even access that driveway at times if they're not coming by vehicle. And also the parking lot is not marked, so that causes issues sometimes at high traffic times with parking, and as you saw in the photos, with lots of children, seniors, and others on our properties and grounds.
So to remedy these problems, we're proposing 6 major improvements to the property. Firstly, to improve traffic circulation and and vehicular safety, as well as pedestrian safety, we're proposing a second driveway, which you can see to the left of the current driveway. Driveway actually existed there several decades ago. It was removed at some point. So we're proposing to reestablish it so that we have the two directions of traffic separated. Between the two driveways, we're planning to have lots of shrubs and light fixtures. These driveways will connect to a new, more formal parking area, which will actually have striped parking spaces so that cars know where to park. It will be paved. We're proposing historically styled permeable pavement rather than asphalt. We'll also have a looped walkway to the gazebo at the rear of the property, which currently is just sitting at the end of a lawn. In the future, we're planning to have gardens around this walkway. Next, we're proposing a ramp to provide barrier-free access to the Clark House. We're proposing a barrier-free entrance lobby at the rear of the building that connects to a barrier-free bathroom in the Clark House. And lastly, the barrier-free ramp to access the Nathaniel Crane House. We considered several, slide please. So here are the drawings of the Clark House. We considered several locations for the ramp and the washroom before settling on this one. We chose this one for a variety of reasons. Firstly, that it's on the rear of the building. We didn't want to add anything to the historic front that faces the street. Another reason is that it minimized the number of rooms that we would impact by building the fairly large restroom. Some of the earlier ideas we looked at involved interfering with multiple rooms. This one only cut into one. And lastly, programmatically, as Angelica said, a lot of the use of this property is actually outdoors. So having the washroom as close as possible to the main entrance to this building and to the areas of the property used, like the farm, was beneficial. Slide. So for the Clark House, we're proposing to have, oh, I'm sorry, could you go back? I threw myself off. Oh. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Briefly to talk about the railings that we're proposing for the ramp. We based these railings on the railings that already exist on that ramp to the Israel Crane House that I showed a photo of earlier. The two ramps we're proposing have the same railings as that existing one. So we see that as a good way to have consistency on the site across the three. While these railings are similar to the ones that are on the existing house, they're not identical, but we think that they have a nice dialogue with them. Yeah. No, sorry. So here's the Nathaniel Crane House, just a colored picture of it. Here, as I said earlier, we're proposing the same railings, but they'll be painted in a color scheme that matches this house's colors instead of the colors of the Clark House. Another thing I want to mention is that while there's currently a door on the south side of the building that we'll be accessing, we actually are proposing a 3-foot wide door to comply with the barrier-free code. We'll match the existing one as closely as possible, but we will be replacing it. The front door will remain unchanged, and then we're proposing to replace the railings on the front stoop, which are not original to the house in any way, with railings that match these ones, just for consistency. And then lastly, we're proposing a lot more lighting on the property. Currently, there's not really any lighting in the parking area, which is obviously problematic at this time of year. So we're proposing this LED light fixture pictured on the slide. It's not an exact replica of an early 19th century light, but it would relate well to buildings from that time period. It's also a full cutoff fixture, so it shouldn't impact light pollution badly. We are also proposing lantern-style wall sconces along the ramps that'll be mounted to the building walls, although we completely cover the parking area and pedestrian paths with these lights, with the exception of the gazebo, which wouldn't be used at night anyway. So that's our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
That concludes your presentation. So before we open it up to questions, I have a question. On page 7 of the planning report, it says calculation for the required 235 parking spaces?
Yeah.
Is that how many there's going to?
There's a clause of the zoning ordinance that requires, I believe, 20 square feet equals 1 parking space.
Yeah.
Which is,
We're not sure if that's a mistake, but it's been in there forever. So it does work out to whatever it says in the report.
235.
For a museum.
240 something.
Yeah.
Wait. Explain that again?
The zoning ordinance requires that museums have 1 parking space for every 20 square feet of floor area, which seems like a typo. But
We
that's
think
what
it
it says.
may be supposed to be 200 feet instead of 20, but me and the zoning officer looked at older iterations of the zoning ordinance, and it has the same requirement. So we just have to kind of take it for what it is. I have not personally done that.
Yeah.
So the parking lot that you're proposing, how many parking spaces will be in it?
18, I believe.
Yeah,
That's more right. A little short.
It's just a
It's
free-for-all.
debatable. So we concluded that 18 was a good number based on the average number of cars that are there on a busy
Right.
day in the summer.
So you're going for a variance, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why we're going to the zoning board.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That was, I didn't know if
Yeah.
it was
It's
a typo or what, or
If
you
you
were
were-
going to pave over the entire
Yeah.
thing.
No, I don't think we could fit that many cars on
Exactly.
the site if we did pave the whole thing.
Right.
No, if that was part of the plan, we might have recommendations. but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll open it up for questions then. Mr. Rooney, do you have any?
I have no questions.
Mike?
Just you mentioned for the parking lot, it's going to be a permeable surface. Are you looking to use something with historical significance, or have you made that decision yet?
We haven't decided on an exact paver yet. We're planning on something that would probably be gray, cobblestone-ish looking.
So somewhat related to the period?
Yeah, the
Okay.
idea is to relate it to the period. For the walkways we're proposing, we're planning red brick, which is what the walkways on the site currently are.
Got it. And then you mentioned that the ramp on, not the Crane House, on the Clark House, thank you, is going to be impacting one room. Which room is it impacting?
So technically the ramp isn't impacting it, but the
Oh, the
accessible
restroom. The restroom
is.
is, right, yeah.
That's impacting one of the rooms on the first floor.
Currently used as an office space.
Use an
Yeah.
office space,
Yeah.
got it, okay.
So that room will get slightly smaller.
Okay, thanks, that's all I had.
Not that we have anything to do with the interior, but when you walk in the door, is it to the right or to the left that will be the washroom?
To the left.
Oh, so the big office space with the windows?
Yes.
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 Okay.
We will not be impacting those big windows. by the
Okay.
way.
So my question is about the lighting. You, on this sheet, the last page,
Yes.
you've indicated where the light fixtures will be?
Yes.
And how many are there?
10.
10, okay.
Yeah.
And then the railings will have underneath, how are the,
No, the railings won't be lit.
where are the sconces then?
They're mounted to the walls. If you look at drawings A1 and A2, there's just wall sconces on either side of the door to the Clark House.
Oh, okay.
And on two on the side of the Nathaniel Crane House. but the majority of the lighting comes from the pole lights.
And was the original driveway as wide as what you're proposing? I mean, now you're gonna have two driveways, so.
Correct.
What is the width from one side to the other side?
I can scale my drawing, just a minute.
Well, just is it like
Yeah,
20?
I think the two driveways are standard width driveways, so 10 to 12 feet each.
Okay,
There's a landscaped area between them that's probably also about 10 feet wide. So it would be the 10 feet of pavement, the landscaping, and then another paved area.
and how wide is the landscape medium in between?
Probably 10 to 15 feet.
Oh, it's that?
I would say maybe around 10. Yeah,
10?
10.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there going to be signage on that? Sorry, sorry,
go
Chair, I
ahead.
didn't mean to interrupt. Is there going to be signage directing people in and out?
Yes, we will be incorporating signage that's appropriate.
Do we need to look at that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a separate application, I think. Do you have, because you don't have the signage here.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, the signage is a good point. We do not have it here, but we'll follow all appropriate channels for
Okay, because that could
signage.
be heard before the minor
Yeah.
applications. You wouldn't have
Yeah.
to come back.
Yeah, the existing signage for the property will remain, but that's true. Vehicular signage will be important.
And then just the lighting on the ramps, do you feel that the sconces on the side of the house are sufficient for,
I would think that they are. We can
Oh, 'cause you'll have-
double check the issue.
Okay.
A good portion of the ramps actually gets light from the post lights.
the post lights? Okay.
Especially the Clark House. I don't think the Nathaniel Crane House is used at night very often.
No, the primary location used at night would be the Clark House or the Crane House, the
Yeah.
Israel Crane House, not the Nathaniel Crane House.
And then the brick that you're proposing, are you removing the existing brick and replacing it? Or what do you do around the garden? No, some of that's in bad shape.
Yeah, the walkway on the northernmost part of the garden is going to be part of the accessible route around the property. So the bricks there we expect they'll be removed and relaid just to make them level. We might widen that walkway by about a foot. But we'll work to match the bricks as closely as possible.
So they'll either be reused or
Yes.
matched? Okay.
Yeah, we have the bricks themselves are in good shape.
Okay, all right, that's my question. John?
How many visitors do you get every year?
That's a great question. For the History Center alone, we get upwards of 5,000 to 6,000 people through all of our sites. The community farm gets additional, so I would say they're upwards of 3,000 as well.
Are you planning on nighttime events and evening things?
We have some. It's not as frequent as our daytime operations when we're all there. It's not on as a regular basis.
Okay.
And things have changed with COVID, so some things are now virtual at the evening time.
I have some planning board. Why is this, are you changing your modus operandi? You're still operating as a museum? Are you
Yes.
changing anything in terms of how you're operating there?
No.
Why do they need any kind of variance?
We're here because we are technically enlarging a non-conforming use. Because we don't have 240-something parking spaces, we don't comply with the conditional use regulations for a museum. So building the bathroom and the parking triggered a use variance.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, yeah, I no, I understand that, except they're not really changing how they're operating.
Right.
They're providing accessible access, and by that, they're enlarging, that's
Right.
forcing them into other things, which I think is ridiculous, but that's, okay, I got it.
And that parking is
Okay.
ordinance, yeah.
I don't have any other questions at the moment.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
My questions is simply to verify the driveway. Current driveway is not wide enough for cars to ingress and egress at the same time, so if you one car comes and the other's gonna have to back up, either out or otherwise. So that the purpose of the effectively widening the driveway, I'm calling it widening, or you're putting a strip in between it, is in your view for safety of ingress and egress? It's the safety purposes?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's all my questions actually related. There is parking on the street also.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
I have another question about the parking lot. When children come, they come by bus, correct?
Correct. The buses do not go up into the lot, so
And
they,
you're not proposing that they?
no, that will
okay.
not be included.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that's not. All right, does anyone, thank you, then, anybody else have any more questions before?
No, I have comments, that's okay.
Okay, is anyone in the public have questions for the witnesses? No, okay, so then we'll open it up to comments then from the commissioners. And we'll start with you, Mr. Rooney.
Well, this is a noble thing to do, to make it handicap accessible, although it's going to be required. It's a federal mandate. And I think that you've done it very selectively and sensitive to the site, and I think it'll work very well. No one will actually notice it's there.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've considered the historic interests and the interests of the community, and it's thoughtfully designed and very supportive of this application.
And I concur. I just have a question, though, about the driveway. The sticking point for me is the driveway. So when you look to the south of the driveway, is there like a knoll there? You'll be taking that, and there's trees on there, right?
Where the new driveway?
Yes.
I think that's going to be, there's no trees in front of it blocking because it originally was a second driveway. There's actually, I believe, brick or something
Yeah,
underneath.
There's
yeah.
a curb
Oh.
cut there,
There
actually.
is, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
But do you have to move, do you have to do some earth moving there to put the driveway in?
I think we're regrading it slightly
Just
just
to
to make
regrade,
it more
not
even.
removable?
No, but there used to be a driveway there.
Okay.
So we're really just reestablishing it.
Okay, then I think if it makes sure that the surface for the parking lot is permeable, reuse of the brick, the railings, which we'll get to, Mr. Conley has a comment about that. I'm generally in favor of it. John?
Yeah, my firm did some pro bono work for the Historic Society's History Center years ago, and it's just, so I can't complain because it's pretty much the same, except for all the site work. And actually, I think you made an improvement in terms of that little bathroom in the, which building is that?
In the Clark House.
Clark House, yeah. Ours was much larger. I think that was done, it's done very well. So I think if I had anything to say about this is how you perceive all of this from the street. You've kept everything in the back except for the handicapped access to the Crane house. Is there any reason why that didn't go around the back so that you didn't see that? Just like you did on the Clark house. Is there
I think the main reason was using a door that was already there.
a door that's already, is there a
Yeah.
door already there?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I think it's great. I think it's fabulous. So, good luck.
Thank you.
And Jerry?
I'm highly supportive. I've been there many times. First, the reasons you're doing all this, increase accessibility, make it safer for ingress and egress, avoid fighting for a parking space and determining where to park. All of those are absolutely positive. And your whole site is historic, so it's all done to accomplish making history more accessible and safer and beneficial and easy to use. I'm
There you go.
highly
There you go.
supportive. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
Mr. Conley, can you speak to your, sorry, we should have gone first.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a wrench into this whole thing. And all my comments are based on the Secretary of Interior standards, as you know. So I had 3 comments about your application. I'm sure you've seen them, but just to reiterate them. My first comment had to do, I basically said the applicant shall evaluate and explore alternatives, solutions to the interior accessibility at the Clark House that do not destroy the significant materials and features of the primary spaces. The drawings didn't indicate what those spaces were in plan. I have my own guess as to what they were, but every effort should be made to minimize damage to materials and features when making modifications for accessibility in the primary spaces so that changes do not compromise the historic character of the building. So I'd prefer to see the accessible restroom somewhere else. It could be in a secondary space. But I think there are issues.
Yeah.
I looked at it.
There-
And maybe outside of the building might work better. It's at the back of the property, so an addition might work better than destroying a primary space, but we can talk about that. My second comment had to do with the railings for the ramp at the Clark and Crane houses. The railing should be simple in design and distinguishable from other existing features. A simple pipe rail with or without balusters would minimize the visual effect and be preferable over the proposed railing. So I scaled your drawings, right, balusters are required over 30 inches, and you seem to be at that point. Maybe adjusting grade would eliminate them, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
And then signs should clearly mark the accessible route and the accessible restroom and accessible routes in general. So when we talked about that, to provide designs for the HBC to review. Those were my comments, so.
Okay. So how's the commission feel about the railings? We'll go back and discuss that. Whether or not they,
Can we ask the applicant their opinion first, and then we can, do you think, Chair? Because I'm not sure exactly.
okay,
But,
well, I
yeah.
think you addressed it during your comments, that you felt that it was more in keeping with what is already there on the rear of the Crane House.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what's drawn here as the balusters and the newel posts or whatever, the in-between pieces, is much nicer than just having a handicap pipe railing, typical handicap accessible. You know, listen, it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of visual noise on the back of the house, but I think it's better than having a antiseptic railing.
Mm-hmm. And it's also the same on the other house, the Crane
Yeah.
House as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the interior space that I had asked you about was the office that you should come into the left. Is that going to be entirely a restroom? And
No, only a portion of that space.
oh, okay.
What
Of
was
course.
that space historically?
They're cutting this corner.
Historically, it was someone's home, so it was
I know, but what was that room?
like
historically?
a parlor space, I guess I would call it.
Yeah. So the challenge in the Clark House is that the first floor, aside from the tiny bathroom that we're demolishing, it really just has the central hall, 2 parlors, the study and the tower, and a kitchen. And the kitchen is in use by the farm. So really the only room left was the smaller of the parlors.
Tom?
We have to think about the future, right? If somebody in the future wanted to restore the house, the first floor as it was historically,
Yes,
right, we're gonna end up with a bathroom in there,
they'd need to take down the bathroom.
right? So wouldn't
Yes.
it be better to put it on the outside or in some other secondary space? not
No.
Primary room?
Because by building the ramp, we're removing the only bathroom on the first floor.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. they're building a bathroom anyway.
Right.
I guess the question is, it becomes more of an addition to a bigger addition to the back of the building in order to salvage or keep
But it's
the
easily
interior space
distinguishable from.
on the
right,
inside.
We're destroying a historic
Right.
space right now, so, yeah.
Is there significant cost adding plumbing and all that other stuff to the outside rather than using the
Oh,
existing?
yeah, it would be significantly more expensive to construct an
Right.
addition than.
Okay.
Well, they're
use
building
existing
an addition. They're building an addition that looks like
A
it's
small
about
addition, yeah.
3 feet by, I don't know, 6 feet.
Yeah.
They'd be building an addition that's 6 feet by 7, you know, it's not the end of the world, as soon as you're building something at that point. I get where you're going with that.
Yeah, it's-
And
Does
the
it-
interior, when you walk in, to the right, isn't there a powder room already there?
It is, but it's not an accessible bathroom.
Well,
Yeah.
could that be enlarged?
It would disrupt the pathway to the kitchen that exists. That's the only
Yeah.
way to access the kitchen in that walkway.
Yeah, and not only is the hallway itself that you access the bathroom off of is too narrow to be accessible, so we'd end up with a cascading bumping out further and further toward the back. In theory, it's doable, but it would become quite an addition.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the future, right? If somebody wanted to, 10, 20 years from now, restore the first floor of the building to as it was historically, we'd have to deal with a restroom. That's, you've kind of destroyed the space.
Yeah, is there any other reason why, I mean, I'm looking at, there's nothing but landscape above the, to the, to the west. I mean, I could imagine reconfiguring the access and building out more of an addition for a bathroom instead of taking some of the interior space. I can't believe that is a cost issue. I can imagine it taking up some more space outside, but any thoughts about that or any pushback there?
We considered a scheme with a larger addition. We didn't really like what it did to the exterior appearance of the building.
And it started to affect, yeah.
Yeah,
This is like minimally affecting the outside. by
Yeah.
doing
it
something
has
on the
effect
inside.
on, it's a trade-off.
I'd like to see it, though. I mean, this is kind of important.
And again, it's where the existing bathroom is, even if you built out an addition on the right side, on the south side of the door, that's not doable?
No, yeah, they have there's plenty of room. It's just, it does become more of a bump out.
Right.
I get it.
Where are we pointing at?
Yeah, one of the problems is that the current back entrance to the building is itself, I believe, 2'6" wide or so. So
Is the door opening?
the door to the building itself is too narrow to be accessible. So to keep the entrance to the building in the same place, we have to demolish that bathroom in order to widen it, which would mean that we couldn't enlarge the bathroom because we need to make it smaller.
So I think for historic buildings, you're allowed opening that's 210 instead of 3 feet.
It's the same difference. We don't have
2
that
inches
much
is
play.
what
Yeah.
we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but point taken. Yeah, it's a very tight area.
Yeah, I think the thing is that there was a lot of compromises and things that, options here, so.
If I can just.
I think you're a
oh.
very skilled architect. I've seen you here many times before. So I think you can make it look fabulous to salvage the interior of the space and take just a little bit more room outside for the bathroom. I bet you can make it look fabulous. I know you can.
I was just going to make one other comment that behind the Clark House is we heavily use those grounds as part of our camp. I mean, that's a major fundraising operation for the farm and the History Center. So while I know there is space behind that, intruding onto that space is also not ideal.
So, I guess our discussion.
So this is a referral. We don't.
Yes,
we
we
don't
don't
have,
have-
we don't have any real power in
have
it.
no
We
power
refer
at all.
things to, right? So,
So I think we'll maybe go over what you've said that we all agree on, which is the idea of making accessible the driveway, putting in the new driveway to make it easily, safely accessible. If you figure out the number of spaces that are needed there, which should be no more than 18. I can't imagine where 256 you would even fit them on the roof maybe. The bricks that are already there be reused or matched. It seems as though the lighting is fine. You certainly have enough. I do agree with the idea of the bathroom somehow being relocated or making it, a bump out as opposed to taking away the interior. I mean, maybe you could do not the total 20 feet that we'd have to. You could somehow figure out
they
how
only
to
need
do.
a handicap bathroom. That's all they need. That's all I see happening here. So they don't need 20 feet. They need another 6 feet project. They can. There's plenty of room to do it. I believe.
To do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come back with suggest they should do that.
Well, that's what our
That's
suggestion.
what we're doing is, yeah,
A
yeah.
suggestion. You wouldn't come back to us again. And is there anything else then that the signage would come
Signage,
back for us, to the minor applications
we'll
committee?
file
That
an
definitely would
application.
have to come back to
Yeah.
us. Okay, so then maybe what we should do is send to the zoning board Tom's number one, the first one, which is, and then indicate that we are in agreement with the other issues, the other things, the driveway, the bricks. I understand your idea about the railings that they want to be compatible. How does everyone else on the commission feel?
I'm comfortable with it, but I don't know what everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So we have all that done, Tom? All right, good. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, this is the- Okay. Next up is application 2820, 63 Park Street. This is also a Board of Adjustment referral. It's site plan and use variances to convert an office building to a mixed-use building. And we had seen this before in a different, right? Yeah, it was. And I had to ask Tom, because I wasn't quite sure if it was if it was the total building or just the addition that you're considering. But it's the total building, correct?
Correct.
Oh.
We can go through the reiterations of
Yes.
what happened.
All right, so before we do that, it's the subject property is located within the Walnut Street Potential Historic Resource, resource area, and consists of an existing circa 1910 2.5-story Tudor-style home. It includes an attached 1-story 7-bay stuccoed garage with a gabled roof that's located on the southeast corner of the property. And while I was reading through this, I was really interested to see that in 1954, Montclair architect A.E. Ramhurst had written an application to put the addition on the back. So that I didn't realize when you came before us originally. So we have new plans now, and we are going to look at those new plans. So if you would identify yourselves and what you are in relation to the project, and then I'll swear you in.
Sure. My name's Lisa John Basta with the law firm Chiesa, Shahinian, and Jan Tomasi on behalf of the applicant. Just as a brief introduction, Madam Chair, you are correct. We were previously here about a year ago for a building expansion, which the building was going to be used as all residential. The clients have reviewed that development proposal. They are no longer proposing an addition at all. They're proposing to rehabilitate the building itself for use as office on the first and second floors, and on the third and fourth floors residential, 1 unit each on those floors. So we have an application that's now pending before the zoning board for for the rehabilitation of the building, some minor site adjustments, which is why we're before you this evening. To my right, I have Ryan Robertson with Sionis Architecture, who's the project architect for this project, and he can walk you through the proposal after he gets sworn in.
So, do you raise your right hand? Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth? Nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, so you have a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Would you like to
And I've handed you the
begin?
printout of what we're about to go through on here, so it can go through.
This is right here.
Yep, same thing. So, I'll just jump right in at page 1. 63 Park Street, Montclair, New Jersey, lot 1601 in block 2311. The lot is trapezoidal shaped, approximately 130 feet by 20 feet, 0.6 acres. It's located on the east side of Park Street, 95 feet north of Claremont Avenue. And the lot slopes from the west. Up here is the high point. Down here is 7 feet lower to the east, which is the rear of the property. The lot is improved with the asphalt parking lot, currently striped for 17 cars. And it's also improved with 2 buildings. One is the multi-story former Red Cross building, located in the center of the lot. And also, that was built in 1910, and also this parking garage. It was built in 1940 with an addition in the 50s and 60s. And also, oh, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Red Cross was built in 1910, and there was a 1-story addition here in the 50s. And then the 7-car garage right here. And next page, please. Not working? Yeah, that's right. This is an image from Google Street View taken on Park Street, the existing multi-story former Red Cross building, constructed in 1910. The building appears from Park Street as a 2.5-story in height. There you can see sloping down to the rear, and here you can see 60-degree parking to the left. Next slide, please. Google Street View actually drove into the back of the property and took this photo as well, where you can see the rear, you can see the garage off to the left. There's an existing flat roof portion, that's the addition, with an entrance at grade, and a large asphalt vehicular maneuvering area with sloped asphalt on the north side of the lot. And here we're 7 feet lower than we are at the street. Next slide, please. This is just a Bing satellite 3D image giving context to the site. Lot 16 is the second lot to the north of Claremont Avenue to the south. It's adjoined by the Montclair Municipal Building and parking lot to the east, the former PNC drive-up facility to the south, and Temple Shamray and school to the north, and a variety of office uses on both sides of Park Street. Next slide. And so we were here a year and a half ago with that more ambitious proposal. Here you can see there's no addition proposed anymore. This is the existing outline of everything. We propose to adaptively reuse the existing building and convert the upper floors from office use to multifamily residential use, 2 total dwelling units. We want to convert the ground floor and first floor to veterinary offices. And here I'm also pointing out a EV charging port in the parking lot. And we want to utilize 2 of the stalls in the garage for parking, and the rest of the garage will be storage. And here is where we originally proposed a board-on-board trash enclosure with a roof. We have a rendering coming up in a later slide where we've moved that trash enclosure at the recommendation of the DRC. And so you'll see that. Next slide, please. Here is our proposed landscape plan. The site will be extensively landscaped. All plantings will be native to New Jersey. There will be new evergreen plantings to the east and a board-on-board fence to the north, providing screening of the parking area. New shade trees throughout and small flowering trees throughout. Here I want to point out we have shown 4 AC units on the drawings that you've received and on the slideshow you have. But we found out, actually I think it was today, that the tenant for the first floor has started looking at their mechanical design, and they're going to need to have 2 more units on the ground. So we will be proposing 2 more units right here and changing the screening. And they're also saying they need to add something up on the first floor roof. So I'll talk about that a little more on a next slide. Next slide, please. Here's the ground floor plan. You can see this area not shaded is the 2 parking stalls. The rest would be storage. Here is an entrance to the ground floor would be veterinary use. So what we're showing here is a veterinary office. The entire ground floor will be for veterinary use for the public. And there's a stair here to go up to administrative offices. So we'll go to the next slide. And here we're on the ground floor, as you see it from Park Street. Also part of the veterinary tenant, just offices and conference rooms, things like that. And then a stair up to the 2 dwelling units. There would be one way in from Park Street if you chose to enter the vet, but it would mostly be just office employees. You could also come up these stairs. The public will be entering on the ground floor through the rear back here. And here you can see the roof of the 1-floor addition. So here is where we think we may need to show some rooftop equipment, and we may need to show a roof screen, an equipment screen, which we do not have in the drawings, but we did propose something a year and a half ago, and we would propose the same thing here. So we'll get into that when we get to another slide. Next slide, please. This image is of the 2nd floor plan, and it'll contain 1 dwelling unit, Unit 201, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,551 square feet. And there's a couple things here that are different from the paper copies that were filed that you have. We had shown a balcony here that we've decided to get rid of. So there was a French door to a balcony. Now it's just a window. This is labeled as a deck. We were going to add a railing there, and now we're just going to keep the window. And here, this bay window, which we'll see better in the elevations. We were going to propose a railing, but now we would like to just have a window, so it'll look exactly like it looks now, in other words. Next slide, please.
Sorry, just to clarify, you're not removing those things, you're just not adding those.
That's right. The drawings that were filed showed us adding them, and now we'd like to take that back. 3rd floor plan will contain 1 dwelling unit as well. Unit 301, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, 1,046 square feet. And again, here is where there was a balcony on the drawings, and we're proposing to not have that. Next slide, please. Here's the roof plan. And in Mr. Connolly's memo, he actually pointed out that we forgot to show the proposed dormer, which was happening right at that balcony, but now we removed that, so we didn't have to update our roof plan. HVAC equipment will be on the ground. There'll be nothing up on the main roof, but we are working right now with the tenant, the tenant's HVAC designer, to see if they're going to need to add something there. This is actually, I'll point this out too because you'll see it in the rendering. This is a mechanical penthouse that they've determined was insufficient for what they need. So you'll see that in the renderings. Next slide. This is a view from the Montclair Municipal Building parking lot without the proposed evergreens right here so that you can see what's going on. Showing a modified canopy here. Right now what exists, if we went back to that Google Street View, we don't have to, but this is supported by these diagonal metal, sorry my hand's shaking there, these diagonal posts and we're proposing to change that so that you can walk under it. We also have updated this rendering. This is where the trash enclosure is shown on the site plan and on the landscaping plan, and we're proposing to move it here and make this a turnaround space instead, because DRC pointed out correctly that you kind of see right down under the trash enclosure from the road as you look down. So, and then here is that mechanical penthouse. It's inaccessible really, and it's too small for any equipment. So we think we might need to put something here and add a roof screen, which we have a diagram later to show sight lines. Next slide, please. Here's the proposed west front elevation. The ridge height of the existing building, that's what it is, and that's what it would remain. We do not propose increasing it. Exterior materials would remain and or be restored. It's got a brick foundation with stucco walls with timbering, vertical board and batten siding at the 3rd floor, and new wood. We're proposing new aluminum clad windows. The applicant has been looking at certain manufacturers to decide what they'd want to go with, and they've been looking at Anderson and have chosen Terratone color potentially as what we would like to propose. Here also is the railing not colored in, the one that I said that we proposed and now we want to not propose, right there and right there as well, above that bay. Next slide, please. Here again is the existing building. The ridge height stays the same, no addition, no increase in height. Here's the 1-story addition where you can see that mechanical penthouse. And here is the garage doors, which would remain and or be restored. Improvements here is the addition was CMU, so we're proposing stucco above and below with some timbering and new windows on all elevations. Next slide, please. This is the view facing the Montclair Municipal Building. Again, the same materials. Here is the modified brackets for the canopy, and here is where the balcony would have been shown on the filed drawings, and now we're just proposing what exists now as a little shed roof. All new windows here, and Mr. Connolly's report also stated to add a window here. It's currently boarded up, so we've shown that. And next slide. This is the view from Claremont Avenue, if you could see there, if the building wasn't there. We had an existing metal fire escape that is being removed. And as on all the other elevations, the exterior materials will remain and or be restored. Here you've got brick foundation, stucco walls with timbering again, vertical board and batten siding again on the 3rd floor. And again, all the windows you see here we're proposing are new. Next slide, please. The light fixtures selected here are the same ones we proposed 1.5 years ago, which we were approved for. So we have a couple pole lights and a couple of these wall sconces that would happen at various points on the elevations. Where we don't have those balconies anymore and they're windows instead of French doors, we won't have these sconces, but we will have those maybe at the front entry doors, at the rear entry, and also as you go up from the ground floor to the 1st floor from the rear. We're proposing a front yard sign here to kind of fit in with the character of the other signage along Park Street with the one tenant, the holistic animal care veterinary tenant. And that would be a wood sign with stainless steel letters. And then here below is, I guess this is in the way, but you don't really need to see it. Unless you can, actually you can move that. So here's where we have proposed evergreen screening from the municipal lot. Municipal lot is right here. If you're standing at the edge of the municipal lot, it's showing a 6-foot-high person with a 10-foot-high tree. The trees we've selected were cedars that grow to 12 feet high, but they can be maintained at 10 feet. So we've shown 10 feet to show what the viewing angle is, and you can see, you can't see, even if we had this diagram previously to show you couldn't see the roof screening when it was up at the top of the main ridge. And here I'm showing where if we have to add something on the first floor, you also can't see it from there. And this would be the same screening that we proposed last time, a perforated metal, which we were approved for. Next slide. So I can move that next. This is the Montclair zoning map. Lot 16 is located in the OR3 zone. Residential uses are permitted as a conditional use within the zone, but the building must have a residential appearance. Residential use cannot be on the first floor. Off-street parking shall be equal to that required for either the residential use or the non-residential use, whichever is greater. And we've calculated that 31 spaces are required and 31 have been provided in our design. A two-story building, 35 feet in height is allowed, and we have an existing nonconformity with a 2.5-story building that's 38.4 feet, but we are not proposing to exacerbate that condition. And the last slide is just that rendering again that we can leave up as I turn it back to Lisa.
I have no further questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up for questions from the commissioners now.
So Kathleen, I just want to say this is not the application that I reviewed. A lot
Oh.
of things have changed.
Right.
So a lot of things a few of the things I commented on have disappeared and some things have been added.
Okay, so, oh dear. So what you reviewed on November 15th?
Yes. This is not the application I reviewed.
Okay,
Things have changed.
right.
I'm not saying for good or bad.
Well,
It seems
could-
to be okay, but it's not
Could
what I
you
reviewed.
could you speak to that then,
Yeah.
on the fly?
I guess, but
Okay, so let's have questions then. Steve?
I have a question. The little roof on the one-story building, you're not planning on using that for anything?
No, except for a possible rooftop unit.
That's what I was thinking. Maybe could you put the rooftop unit within that and it'd screen it from the street?
So could you go to slide 3, please? Or actually, keep it here, that's fine, because you're talking about this.
I'm talking about that little thing over there.
Or this one.
Yeah.
That one is an existing mechanical penthouse that's kind of deceiving in this view. It's not tall enough to stand in. You can't really put anything in there, but we thought maybe that's where some equipment would go. The applicant has a tenant whose mechanical designer said they can't use that for anything, so they want to put some of their equipment on the ground where we already showed some, but now it's going to be more. And they also said they need something here, so that's where I think we'll have to show some screening.
Yeah, I just thought that you could probably use part of it as screening from the street.
Part of this?
Yeah.
is
Maybe.
that space noted on the drawings anywhere?
If we go to the roof plan, page 11,
Which 11?
I don't have an 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, the proposed roof plan, this
The
one.
new one.
so this area is what you're...
So wait a second.
Right.
You're saying it was existing, but it wasn't on what I reviewed before?
No, this should have been that. This area right here is the mechanical...
All right, it just wasn't noted as anything. Okay.
Right. So that's a little gable roof that's not all that tall. And so they can't fit any equipment in there. They're proposing it somewhere here.
To piggyback off that question, I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Rooney, but there's no way to expand that little gable? There's no way to
Yeah,
make
you
it
could do that.
higher? I mean, it just seems to make more sense. I mean, with it looked like in the diagram you were putting 2 units up there, right? 2 AC units up there, or what mechanical, what am I looking at here?
I mean,
It looked like just air
What was
handling
it?
units.
Fresh air makeup unit.
Fresh air makeup unit, okay.
we literally just found out about it today, so we don't know the details on the design. It's probably not finalized either, right?
It's approximately 11 feet long and 30 inches wide.
Oh, so
How
that's a little
tall?
bigger than the, okay.
How tall?
30 inches?
30 inches tall, but it has to be up 1
Right.
And that's in addition to the new AC units that are being added to the current location of those AC units?
Yeah, so there'll be 6 on the ground and this makeup unit on the roof.
On the roof. How are they screened currently on the ground?
I'm sorry?
How are they screened?
With
on the ground?
evergreens.
Evergreens.
I could tell you which, they are.
It says,
Shamrock inkberry,
Okay.
which are coniferous, 36 inches in height to 42 inches in height.
Sorry, Mr. Rooney, I didn't mean to step on your question.
That's all right, that's all right. I really don't have any other questions than that. Why aren't we using that? So.
Mr. Grant?
I said one additional question about the location of the garbage screen. Is that blocking a storage unit?
Yeah, well, it's not blocking it, but it's in a parking stall in front of it, so you could still walk beside it. So you couldn't park a car in that stall.
And it's
anymore.
not intended for parking anymore,
No.
right? That's intended
Right.
for storage.
Yeah, it never was, because you wouldn't have, parking space 24 is blocking the first 2 stalls anyway.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have for the moment. Thank you.
I have a question about the windows. So the windows that we see in this are very different from what the original windows are. The original windows are 6/1, what I'm seeing in the back.
Some places they're 8/1.
yeah,
They don't
it's-
match what is
Right, and some that the bump out, they're 9/1. I saw one that had a diamond pane. I think it was on the north elevation. So what are,
Well, the intent is to match the existing Mutton style, and I know there exists 8/1s and 6/1s, so it's kind of mismatched. So if something on the elevation, I'm not sure which one is incorrect, but
so you intend to match the window style with the number of mullions?
right.
Okay. And then there was one that was a diamond. It was
Where?
it was on the north. It's on page 15 on. No, sorry, that's 15. The upper pane. It was the one that, I think it's a doorway that, it's a doorway that comes out onto the, I can't find it now. Anyway, it was different from the original ones. Oh,
Oh,
no, here it is. It's here. It is on the north side. It's,
Oh, and the 3rd floor.
no, that's the second floor.
Okay.
And then the barge board, you're calling this an adaptive reuse? Adaptive reuse, correct? So you're using the original exterior facade elements? You're not taking off the stucco? You're not
No,
Okay. And the barge board is going to remain?
right.
Okay. Okay, that's my question. Mr. Reynolds?
Yeah, I would say the same thing about the windows. They don't match up to the existing house. If you're saying they match. In terms of the garage, it looks like the rendering shows that you're going to stucco in between the garage doors. Is that what you're planning on doing?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions.
And Mr. Sweeney, do you have a question?
I only focused on the trees. Are you removing all the trees?
The application said that we were, but the applicant has decided to keep all the existing trees and prune them instead. So
And what's the reason for that?
what's the reason to keep the existing?
No, the reason for removing all.
We're not removing anymore. We
You're
will.
not gonna do that.
Yeah, we were at one point, and then I think it was a carryover from a year and a half ago when we had a more ambitious site. So we're no longer doing that.
That's not.
I have one question considering the use, the veterinary use, which I think is great, by the way. But veterinary use, do you have plans to do any outdoor kennels, which,
No, there.
no overnight? Okay. So,
And no animals on the first floor either. They'll only be on the ground floor.
okay. Okay. Then, Tom, can you, with our questions, is there anything else that,
Yeah, after seeing the presentation tonight and what I reviewed previously, I still think the proposed alterations are in keeping with the township's historic design guidelines and the standards for rehabilitation. I'm a little confused as to where some of the mechanical units are going, and you mentioned even what you presented tonight was going to expand. Barring that, I still think it's a lot better than what we reviewed a year or so ago. My second comment goes away. The third comment had to do with the boarded up windows. Sounds like you're gonna repair or replace that one. And just any kind of, I don't know if you are now replacing any doors or windows, or you're, because you had some new doors when what I reviewed previously, but those have gone away. But anyway, any new detailed specifications, cut sheets, manufacturers,
Right.
product information, all the typical lighting, I think have you submitted all of that?
We didn't submit a cut sheet for that light.
All right,
bill.
I think that should come before the HBC for review. So you guys can get a look at that before you.
yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
We usually request that, so that's
Yep.
just a normal,
In general, I'm fine with this.
right. While we're on this application, does anyone in the public have any questions for the applicant? No. Okay, so we'll open up for discussion on our end. Steve, do you want to start?
I believe that this presentation is a lot more logical than the previous one that we had. I think you're going to improve the building considerably. I don't quite understand the logic of getting rid of the fire escape, but that's not up to us. And if you're going to mimic the windows and doors that you're replacing, and stucco the whole place, I think it'll be looking pretty good.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. I don't see any significant changes to the exterior. I think overall it looks like an improvement to the site, and I'm supportive of the application.
Thank you. Just real quick, you're not increasing any of the parking, the impervious parking, it stays the same, correct?
The impervious?
Well, yes, the parking
Our
area.
impervious will reduce.
Oh, it's reducing.
Yeah, we're showing all of the diagonal parking spaces to remain, but the, at our DRC, they said that we're maybe gonna remove 4 of them, which will become impervious now, or pervious. So that would be a variance request though, because right now we have 31 stalls, 31 spaces, and we need 31.
It hasn't been decided yet. As of right now, we're leaving the parking spaces as they are, and if the zoning board requires us to remove 1 or 2, we might remove 1 or 2.
But for this you're not increasing?
No, not at all.
Okay, and you're leaving the vegetation, the trees and everything?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would we have to advise about the change of material, or is that out of the scope of what we would discuss?
I think that,
They said that they're changing the material from pervious to impervious. Would we have to?
No,
Have
they're,
any?
Other way
they're
around.
just
I think
repaving,
it's the
but
other
they
way
may be
around.
removing.
Impervious to pervious.
They may
Yeah.
be removing some parking spaces and putting landscaping.
Oh, I see.
But they're
Okay.
not changing, the pavement material will
still
be the same, they're just
asphalt.
gonna mill it and repair it.
That's
Right.
Oh, I see. Okay, thanks.
So in general, I think, aside from the windows, which I think would really impact this facade tremendously, if you agree to keep the same design and spacing that's there, I think it's a vast improvement. And again, the mechanicals up on the roof, you testified they're 11 feet long by, it sounds like a big rectangle, right? Like a rectangular box. So I don't know how you would, and you're not sure where you're going to place that yet.
So Ryan,
I
I
mean,
think
it's-
if it's correct, the one-story roof
Right?
in back of the building that I don't believe would be visible from the street, it would probably be placed somewhere in the
Right in the
center of
middle.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Reimnitz, do you have any discussion?
I'm in support of the application.
Great. And Mr. Sweeney?
I would support it because the end result, it would look like a house, even though it's mixed use and veterinary and other office use. And I think it looks very nice. I support it.
Okay, great. So, Tommy, we have Tom's the number one, and the windows are important. And
Do we need to review the signage as well?
well, that will come back. That
That will come back,
That'll come
okay.
back to us, which we said is normal. Yes.
There was just one sign proposed with the, and it was the monument sign that Ryan had gone over.
But we didn't
Right,
see
and
the,
that's
what's it?
part of the proposal for the site plan. So you're reviewing that now.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's just the sign that.
The wooden
street-
sign
the
with
wooden sign on
the,
the street.
steel
Oh, okay.
letters, yeah.
Which is on page 17. Okay. Usually people come back to us with signage. And that's the only signage that you're,
The only sign, yeah.
That's right.
okay.
And also, this is in a potential district, so it wouldn't come back.
Okay, because it's
Anyway.
on a local, and it's not a local landmark.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Well, the sign seems fine. Okay.
As long as it complies with,
With the zoning ordinance. Right.
Right.
Okay. All right, good. Sounds like it'll be great.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, we're just going to take a very brief break, about 5 minutes, okay?
I remember this.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rick. So our last application of the night is application 2821, 6 South Fullerton Avenue. It is a variance for window coverage of the facade of a building which is located in the Town Center Historic District. It's a 6-bay wide, 2-story vernacular commercial building facing east towards South Fullerton Avenue, has a limestone foundation and exterior walls. The project description is that the applicant proposes to install vertical wood slats stained black within the storefront area in front of the storefront bulkhead and filling the sign band. Entrance doors and transom windows are proposed to remain and be painted. The applicant also proposes to install 2 aluminum channel lights mounted to aluminum raceways in the space between the 2 entrance doors. One is to be the street numbers, while the other is to be the restaurant logo on a black face. Neither sign is proposed to be illuminated. And as I said before, this is a building within the Town Center Historic District. So, hello. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Sure. Good evening, Chair. Entering my appearance for the record, John Vettery on behalf of Thunder Concepts, LLC, doing business as Pasta Ramen.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joey Simons. I'm the CEO of Montclair Hospitality Group, which owns and operates Pasta Ramen.
Okay. So I have to swear you in? You swear to tell the whole truth and everything?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, thanks. So I've made the introduction. You have introduced yourselves. And do you have oh, good. You have a presentation as well. So why don't you begin to speak as to what you propose to do to this building on South Fullerton?
Thank you. Well, we also have our architect here this evening, but I thought it would be important to have the CEO come and explain the relationship of their branding with the design that's here before the board. And that's why I wanted to just spend a brief moment having Mr. Simons go over that. So if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. So I'm CEO of Montclair Hospitality Group, Montclair, New Jersey. We own and operate about 5 restaurants within walking distance of this location. Our flagship restaurant being Ani Ramen, which opened up in 2014 in Montclair, has become a tried and true New Jersey ramen brand. We own a donut concept down the block called Mochi Nut, and directly next door, a Thai restaurant called Kai Yang. So we're super familiar with you guys and doing business in Montclair. This is our newest addition to Montclair. It is a James Beard Michelin chef by the name of Robbie Felice, who also owns 2 restaurants in New Jersey. And we're coming to Montclair with a brand called Pasta Ramen, which is a fusion of Japanese and Italian cuisine. We started this concept during the pandemic when you could do limited seatings and small dining at our other restaurants, and started charging. It was a $300 per person omakase Japanese Italian fusion food. Became super high in demand and has traveled actually all throughout the country. We just finished a run in Los Angeles and opening our flagship brick and mortar here in Montclair. We opened up our reservation books, and we're sold out for the first 6 months. So we're really excited about bringing some real culinary talent to Montclair and validating us as an amazing city. So the facade of it, which I'll allow our team to go into, is reminiscent of what Pasta Ramen is, which is a Japanese traditional restaurant. If you go to Japan, typically restaurants are looking into the back alleys of really disgusting, greasy, trash-ridden alleys, right, with homeless people. And so they put up these slats to protect the views of the guests inside from the outside. So it's kind of paying homage to what Japan omakases do, and is really institutionalized in what our brand ethos is, which is this hide-and-seek type of restaurant where you have to seek out the restaurant, and it's not just a big open window. You can look in and find and see dining. It's kind of open and experience, and once you're in, you get captivated into the dining instead of looking in and being captivated from the outside. So with that.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Cool.
Okay. Hold on, I just want to, let's make sure the board didn't have any
Oh, sorry.
questions of,
No. Thank you for the
Yeah.
the
Okay.
description. But can you go over the?
the architect.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, we have Zach Giddish, who will get sworn in.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, and all the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Giddich?
Yes, my name is Zachary Giddich. I own Giddich and Sepulveda Architecture. I'm an architect registered in New Jersey. We presented the 3 pages that you guys have all been given. And basically, I'll just quickly run through them so you can get a sense of what our look is for this facade, which is basically almost a veil over the existing facade. We're trying to minimally attach back to the existing facade with horizontal wood slats and so that we can cover the entire storefront with these vertical wood slats and create that sort of veiled concept of privacy for the restaurant itself. So in HP 001, we have a couple renderings of what the storefront would look like. And then in the next sheet, which is HP 002, we get into some of the line drawings of the existing facade, and then what it would look like covered with our wood slats, and then a few sections that kind of come through it that explain where we're looking to attach, which is in the storefront 3, detail number 3 storefront section, and number 4 storefront section. So in there you can see that we're looking to attach back to the existing sign band with horizontal wood, with a horizontal wood slat, and then our vertical slats would be attached back to that. We're going to traverse past the storefront with these slats and then attach to the base of the storefront again with more horizontal, and then the vertical would be attached to the horizontal.
The decorative trim around the storefront, this was a comment that the Development Review Committee had. They didn't like that was covered in the initial iteration. That's changed now?
Yeah, there's a braiding that's around the storefront here, and we're not touching that. We're not going beyond the limits of. We're staying within the perimeter of that braiding that's happening.
Thank you.
And to clarify, it was the Design Review Committee of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't participate in that meeting.
That's
Thank you
I just
for
wanted to
clarifying.
clarify, no problem.
Thank you.
So in HP 003, we just show a little bit of the sign, which is a discrete sign with no words or lettering. It's sort of their logo. And then these are the details that I'm referring to, number 1. And then number 3 is the address, which is 6. And then we have some existing photos of the facade, sort of indicating where we are putting what is there now and what we're going to be covering. Again, I think the concept here for this is that we are going to minimally attach back to the existing facade with our wood slats, and we're not proposing to change anything permanently on the existing facade itself. We're just looking to cover it. And everything that we're doing can be reversed very easily. So we're trying to not do any damage at all to the existing facade itself. It's more of a covering that we're looking to do.
Now, typically when I represent restaurants, they're looking for great big giant signs. I've never had such a discrete sign, but that balances in with the concept and the exclusivity that Mr. Simons is referring to.
Yeah, I think that homage back to the Japanese omakase is what we're trying to express here, because that's the concept of the restaurant and the business itself, and we're trying to do it in a way that pays respect to the existing storefront by not damaging it, but we are looking to cover it, and we're looking to cover the glass with these vertical slats spaced evenly across the facade.
Thank you. I have no further questions of the architect.
Okay. Right, thank you. Does anyone else want, you're all done with your testimony then?
That's a testimony.
Okay, thank you. So why don't we start with questions from our commission. And I always start to the right. How about I start to the left this time? Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you. So the slats are not for actual privacy? There's no activity going on that requires privacy inside the unit?
No, it's open to the public. There's no age restriction to the space.
Okay.
It's not an adult
And second,
situation.
it's simply for I say simply, but it's essentially for the marketing activity of the intended tenant? Okay.
Yeah.
And have you compared the look of that to the look of the rest of the building to see if it's consistent?
Well, it's not consistent. The look that we're looking for is something that's very different from what people want in and around stores that have a storefront. People usually want to have a big glass storefront to look in and to show off their product, and this is something different than that. So it's I think that the concept here was to create some like a if you know situation, very discreet, so that we're not trying to show off what's happening from the outside, but when you come inside, that is when you're immersed into the space with little distractions looking back to the street itself.
Just add one thing to Mr. Sweeney's question, and we don't have a planner here this evening, but we have one for the Board of Adjustment, and I believe there's a relationship to a building, not as part of this ownership, but if you're facing the building to the left. I think maybe recently they renovated the space, and it's dark gray, dark black windows, and it does bear some resemblance to this.
Not yet, but not to this building directly.
No.
Final.
It's actually shown here, so I don't know what that address is.
To
To
the
left.
adjacent?
Yeah.
Final, in your
building over.
opinion, are the slats necessary for the success and effectiveness of the business?
That's not my call. So that's the CEO's.
It's contingent, it's not contingent necessarily on the success, but it is part of the brand identity.
It's part of the brand, but may not be essential for the success.
It's like McDonald's not putting a big M out front. It's just part of the brand is having this hidden speakeasy, right? So it's not in your face. There's no light shining out on the street. It's a very inclusive but exclusive, you know, right? And it's part of this Whisper campaign and this new wave of marketing and trying to target new diners and engage them in ways that traditional dining has not done, right? So bringing Michelin star food and hiding it behind a veil, right? And coming in and experiencing a whole different environment when you walk inside is really what we're going for.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
My questions go to the screen itself and the 3/4 inch slats, and I guess they're gonna be attached to something that's 3/4 inch running in the other direction or something. And
Yes.
so the whole thing sits off the existing building 1.5 inches?
Yes, yeah, that's the
That's the
sort of
concept,
yeah.
Have you run that by the building department, that you can set outside the existing facade of the building?
We've run it through the zoning department,
Zoning
not the building
department,
necessarily.
okay.
So just to hop in, because we did talk, that's a good point. We talked about that with House of Highlights on Glenridge Avenue. They needed to make an agreement with the township as far as projection into the right of way, which can happen after. If it's approved, it can happen after the fact.
Sure, yeah.
We can discuss that at the Board of Adjustment
And
as well.
our idea, we did take that into consideration. We wanted to keep it as minimal projection as we could. That's why we're doing 3/4 and 3/4.
Yeah, I got it, but you're still over, so I'm just asking the
Yeah.
question, you know?
Sure.
An inch is a mile or something.
Yeah.
Have you used this 3/4 inch slat, 8 feet unsupported next to each other?
Yeah, that's
Are
a-
you worried about, I look at the drawing,
yeah.
it looks, very clean.
I know,
very
nice and
whatever.
straight, right?
Yeah, let's see what happens over
Yeah.
time, I'm a little concerned that it doesn't wear so well. I don't know if you've used it
So
someplace before.
I spoke to the client about that, and what we had agreed is once we can get this approved, is that we would take different species and find out which one has the most.
Mock it up and see what you
Mock
can
it up,
do.
and because there is some sun exposure here, and the weather, we'd have to make sure that it's maintained, so that if it starts waving, we would have to replace those
Yeah,
pieces.
you might come up with some sort of synthetic substitute or something.
Yeah,
the day. I don't know that.
We
but,
were
okay.
thinking about
Just-
that too, but our intention was to keep to a wood. So
Yeah,
whether
I
it's
get it.
a
I get
teak
it.
or something like that,
I
that's a
get
little
it.
bit more.
I don't have any
foreseen.
other questions.
I have a question. What you're proposing, in your own words, is non-traditional. So have you looked at the design guidelines, and do you know that what you're proposing is in the first historic district in Montclair, which by definition is traditional?
Sure. Yes, I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I said it's non-conforming to that.
Okay, that's my question.
Yes.
I don't know if there's any way to make it
No.
conforming.
The
concept
idea-
itself is,
the
Right.
idea itself, and I think that the best way I can address that is that we fully intend to restore the storefront to its conditions after the time has been spent with this client and its location, and I think the client would be happy to put that into writing as part of the as part of the mandate for this thing getting approved, for the storefront getting approved.
you mentioned light not getting in or out. So is it opaque? Like, can you not see through it all? So the glass itself will be?
The wood, we're essentially covering 50% of the glass because
Yeah.
we're doing a 3/4 inch wood slat, and then we have a gap, and then a 3/4 inch slat, and we have a gap.
But you're not changing the glass, you're not
No,
tinting anything?
We're
you're
not touching the glass,
Yeah.
we're not changing the glass, and we're trying to minimally attach back to the existing storefront. Our first bands at the top will be in the sign band itself. And then down below, we're planning to attach at the base of the, sort of where the window stops and where the stone picks up at the base there.
Okay, and the effect will be essentially,
So if you're looking at the storefront straight on,
you'll be able to see
you'll
it,
be able to see
but
it,
the
but
effect
as you-
anywhere else is you can't.
As you approach it, it's
Yeah.
going to have a perspective to it that's going to block your view until you come, which is sort of that surprise look if you're on the street.
Right.
Because you're walking up to it, you don't know what it is, and then you can see in because it's essentially a screen, and then you just notice the activity in the space, and it's sort of that, oh, I just found this place sort of feeling.
Across the street, you'll get this Japanese lantern sort of.
Right, effect, yeah, okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
The new canopy, how far does it stick out onto the street?
Let's see. I have it I think on there. I actually don't have a measurement on there, but it's projecting, I would say, about 2 feet past the facade itself.
And all the existing glass and everything is going to remain clear,
That's correct.
including the doors.
Yeah, we're not actually touching the doors.
Going to paint them?
No, I think we're just going to keep them.
Okay. How do you maintain what's going on behind the slats?
The storefront itself,
Yeah.
you have to be able to clean in between it with some sort of wash.
Okay. Because I could see snow building up in there and getting us all sorts of debris behind there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good point.
So, other than that, I like the design. I think it's great.
Thank you.
And at night you'll be able to especially see light from the inside
Oh, yes.
when you're looking
Yeah.
straight at it.
Yeah.
you know.
And it's in warm bulbs inside, it'll be a really nice glow. It'll be
Right.
really cool.
Great. Too bad we can't get a seat.
For you, we'll make room.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions then? No? Is anybody in the public wish to ask questions of this witness? No. Okay. So, Mr. Conley, why don't we discuss what you've written?
Okay. So just so you know, what I wrote may seem a little harsh, but it comes directly from the Secretary of Interior Standards.
We
And
take it personally.
And the National Park Service
Give it
has
to me,
written
Mr.
a preservation brief on restoring historic
I'm on the
storefronts.
Preservation Commission in Little Falls, but I hear you.
Oh.
So,
Mr. Conley, no seat for you.
so the design, detailing, and choice of the proposed materials are clearly inappropriate for this commercial building. The proposed design shall be compatible with the size, scale, color, material, and character of the existing storefronts in the building in order to create a harmonious facade. The new design should read as a storefront. Filling in the space with wood slats is an inappropriate appearance for this historic building. And again, that comes directly from the National Park Service's guidelines on rehabilitating historic storefronts or historic storefronts. So you have to weigh that with.
I understand.
It's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
I have one.
If it wasn't a historic building, you know.
Right.
Or
say
if it wasn't
all for
in
it,
the
but-
historic district.
Yeah,
It's
and
a-
the building next door, I think, is a completely separate building. and
Right,
that
Completely
it has-
separate, right?
I have one.
We're talking
one
about,
question
an
about that.
element in an overall building. here.
And all the other
But-
storefronts look vastly different. I know that's the goal, is to distinguish it, but they do have
I mean,
the
there might be a
traditional.
compromise here too.
The ones
but-
on that building have the traditional awnings, and it's very different.
But it is
so.
reversible, and
It-
that's
Yes,
a
that's
huge.
what's key.
And our planner, again, he's not here, but he pointed out that I think there are awnings on the other. This is the last of the storefronts, that there
It
was
is.
some rationality to it, where it would have some uniqueness, but by keeping the braids was an important part of making it look, substantially similar, that it's not taking away, degrading from the building, and it is completely reversible. There's no permanent changes that are planned.
Yes.
Well, it's our job to discuss and decide really whether or not this is appropriate for a historic district, no historic district like Montclair. So with that, I'll open it up to discussion.
I'll be happy to go to first. Your selection is based on marketing, and that is sort of an appearance of the restaurant you want to have. Historic preservation, to some extent, is based on preserving image, character, and marketing of a historic district. So our standards require that we have some consistency. And looking at the proposal, this storefront looks wholly different and out of character with all the rest of the storefronts, and out of character with the rest of the buildings in the area. I know you said it could be removed, but my understanding was your intent it was going to stay there during the whole period of the tenancy of the restaurant. It's not something you're just putting up temporarily. You're going to keep it there. So, in any event, my concern and as a basic objection to it, because I think it's really too much out of character with the historic character of the building and the area.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. John?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to take the intent and the execution and try to meld them together a little bit. And just a couple suggestions or things I think would make it better in my mind in terms of being more historically, whatever. One is, and it wouldn't change this idea of you can't find it kind of thing. So I think, if you continued the awnings that were down the street and just had a blank awning, just so that you tied the proportions of the building across the facade, and you did your 3/4 inch, hidden facade above the bulkhead of the facade, then I wouldn't have a problem. You'd be expressing what was the old storefront, and you'd be tying this facade into the existing, this space into the existing facade of the building. To take it and just, I get the image. I get it very clean, streamlined, I got that, but I think if anything, it stands out and it says, hey, I'm different, comes, as opposed to being maybe a little bit more laid back. So, suggestion. Those are my suggestions, comments.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Graham?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of those comments. On the one hand, I do understand Mr. Rooney's sentiment. I think it's a very interesting design. I just think probably is out of character for this building in particular. And I did like Mr. Reimers' suggestion about perhaps thinking about the awning because it is just, I agree. I respect the fact that it's reversible. I mean, I don't know if we can always guarantee that it's completely reversible without any damage to the existing building, but I think overall, this is a tough one for me because I do tend to like the design, but I do think it is also out of character for this particular building. And again, I like Mr. Reimers' suggestion about tying it in somehow with the rest of the building, the other storefronts.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rooney?
I like the design as it is. I think it's contained within the outline of the braiding, and this is just bringing the display out onto the street versus having a display behind the windows.
But even that's not, it's covering 50% of the glass. I mean, that's not allowed in our zoning, or
I don't have a problem with that because when you're going to look at it straight on, it's going to look transparent.
how's it going to look transparent if 50% of the glass is covered?
No, it's very, very narrow. I've done this before, so it's not a big deal.
You're going to see people, you're going to see activity, you're going to see light and so on.
Oh, I see, yeah, no, you
Especially
see the
at night,
light, yeah.
During the day, you probably won't see anything. So.
Wait, so the slats are that thin?
Mhm.
They're very thin.
Oh, so they're that thin, okay.
Yeah. The idea is for it to be thin so that there's
equal
not going to be
spacing.
large.
I gotcha.
There's not going to be large swaths that we're blocking. It's thin, repeated, often, almost like a screen. Or that's why I called it a veil in the beginning. So.
Right.
And while I appreciate the idea, and especially since you've talked about omakase and the whole concept behind it, I think it's an intriguing design. I really do. I just don't think it fits within the historic the district. And I'm worried about setting precedent to cover storefronts. I mean, that's a real concern. If it happens here, we might not have such a wonderful design next time, and we wouldn't be able to stop it. While I do think it is a very good design, and all the things that you said about inviting people in, creating mystery, exclusivity, I think it does all that. It's just that I don't think it's appropriate for the historic district in Montclair. So if there's a way that you could, I don't know, as an architect, come up with an idea similar to what John has suggested with using the slats but not covering the windows, because it's 20% that can be covered, correct? Yeah. With opening in the middle, maybe putting the slats on either side, but somehow coming up with a creative solution that would let the glass, be open.
Yeah, I don't mind that they're putting the screen over. To me, it's more about the proportions of the building and the rest of the facade. If they want to create this image of this, Japanese lantern or screen view in and out, the doors are all glass, so that doesn't bother me, really. I mean,
But to the chair's
The
point,
20%, yeah.
in the future, though, we would be setting precedent.
Mhm.
So that is a real concern.
And
If this screen, I'm sorry, if this screen was inside the glass,
I was
would we
ju-
have any
would-
control over it?
None whatsoever.
Okay,
You
so
might
how would
present
it,
the same problem.
what's that?
In other words, if you block your window from the inside or block it from the outside, it has pretty much the same effect. But inside, it wouldn't be something.
We don't have
That's why I'm suggesting it. If-
But aren't there other statutes about opaque glass on the first floor? Or am I-
Right, and it's in a store
Yeah.
window,
In a
storefront window.
storefront window.
I mean, it can't
Well,
be.
I think that's a zoning issue, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's a zoning issue, yeah.
I'd be okay
That's what
with
I'm
that
asking,
because
yeah.
we'd be preserving the bulkhead and the display window and the sign band, which are the elements that repeat in the other storefronts.
Well, if it were inside, it wouldn't offend the historic preservation guidelines.
But I think it would lose
I
the
don't think it
effect
would.
that they're going, but it would lose the effect that they're going for, and yeah, this is a tough one. Yeah.
So,
With that,
with that, I think you've heard that the design is creative. It certainly speaks to the, what you're trying to create. But I think the majority of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, that sit up here, think that it's not, a traditional storefront, obviously, and that perhaps if you came up with something that could somehow create the same look, but maybe having 20% of the slats outside and some on the inside. I mean, we're not supposed to sit here and design, but I would not, couldn't agree with, approve it as it's being shown now, and for those reasons, because it's in a local landmark district, and, even though you've taken care to assure us that it can be removed when you leave, I think it doesn't fit in with the district for a number of reasons, and I think you've heard them all. Any other discussion? No?
I think there's other solutions out there that accomplish the intent, I guess. We don't need to.
Well, we don't need to design.
We don't need to design, or they can come back and
Right.
show us something else.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thanks for the
Okay,
comments and the
okay.
consideration. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah, you
thank
too.
you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Guys are all still invited, please.
Thank you.
but there's no tables.
At $300 a plate, I don't know if I can.
Moving on to the last, we've already done some committee reports, we've reported, but now we're on the commuter area survey study, which, Tommy, can you give a brief overview of where we are with this now?
Sure. So it was submitted to the state last week, I believe, to the State Historic Preservation Office, and they've approved the final product. So, in effect, all 430-ish, around 430, I think it's 431 property surveys are now filed with the state. And so that means that each of those properties has a survey on file with the state, which means the demolition ordinance covers them. And also, it's good, obviously, to have that information for report writing and for research moving forward for anything that happens in that residential district. So I think I printed out a copy for those that receive hard copy packets of the report, but I also included links in my email last week. We have the final report and surveys up on the website if you want to look through them. And if you have any like pressing or important changes that you want made, we can still make minor amendments to it after it's been sent to the state. So just let me know and we can look into it. So that's where that is, and again, we're starting the application process for the second portion of that area. So, and once we have the estate section kind of ironed out, I know the grants subcommittee is working on that. Once that's ironed out, right now we've deactivated the links to the surveys for the potential individually surveyed properties because of the way that GIS is set up. It's kind of like all or nothing. And so because we weren't sure all of the estate area ones were accurate, we just took all of them down temporarily. Once that's figured out, we'll be able to put all of them back up. And in addition to these 431 commuter area surveys as well.
Okay, thanks, Tom. And I have a question. Procedurally now, do we have to accept this? What happens?
I wasn't sure either. I asked Graham. I'm in touch with my predecessor because he's training me in GIS. But he said that there's no formal action that needs to be taken. Once it's submitted to the state and accepted by them, that's the end of the process.
Okay, so if there's any question that comes up with any of these, we can refer back to this, which is now filed with the state.
Correct.
Okay.
And then just to add into the intent of the second part of this survey effort is Connolly and Hickey did the bulk of the work already, and so what will happen with the report in the second part is it will just be updated as needed with information from the other properties that are surveyed. So the what's the date? The period of significance may change slightly depending on the age of the structures surveyed.
Right, because the ones on Macapan are a little bit later than what the period of significance is.
So it could. So the recommendation.
Changing the boundaries too.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
So I don't know procedurally as far as the master plan itself goes if we would need to amend that. I think for all intents and purposes, even if it's not included in the boundary that's identified in the master plan, if they're surveyed, it has the same level of, I guess.
Legality?
Yeah, I mean,
protection.
The demolition ordinance would kick in and
right.
the referrals would kick in. So it would have the same effect as being in the official master plan boundary. So what was recommended was that the properties on the east side of Park Street adjacent to the district boundaries be surveyed as well, and then potentially also additional properties as it's looked at more closely. So those would all be surveyed, so they'd have the same level of protection or referral.
Okay, right. Because then on page 77, and Tommy and I already spoke about this, what you're speaking about, including the east side of Park Street, answer to this question may be found research and work product conducted by the authors of the HPP element, which could be requested by the township and examined by the HPC as a starting point to determine why the boundaries are noted as presented in the document. So Tom, do we have to know why they didn't include it, or can we just say we want it included?
Yeah, I think since we did the first part, we noticed a trend, so that's why we should be including the other topics.
No, I agree they should be included, but do you see a reason to contact the people that wrote the previous survey?
I don't think so, no.
No, okay, because it's our decision. Okay.
Agreed.
All right.
I could reach out to them if you wanted me to, and
No,
it would be
no,
up
no,
to
no,
them to
no.
respond.
I mean, I'm
But-
sure they'll say, agree with
Right.
our assessment.
Okay. No, I don't think we have to get it, anywhere else. But I have to say, I think it's a great document. I think
That's
that they
great.
did a really good job. Everything in here is very professional. The combination of current photos and historic photos adds a lot to it. The history is well written. I did pull up, I don't even know where I pulled this up from. I guess this is the Upper Montclair survey map with the additional properties on it. So,
Yeah, so that's a map that I prepared as part of this next round of applications for the grants, and that shows. So Kathleen's holding it up. That shows the color coding is to make it a little clearer, but the blue is what was surveyed as part of the first part. The red or pink is what would be part of the second part that's included in the boundaries of the master plan, and the orange would also be surveyed as part 2, but it's not in the technical boundaries, but it was recommended to be surveyed.
and then I also asked Tommy, then, do we request the grant amount, or does the state request, does the state look at this and say, well, it's not as much what was, done prior?
Right, so we have to submit kind of like a preliminary budget of how much we anticipate it will cost to do it. And then it's up to them, first of all, whether they give us any money at all, and then how much. So if they think that we're requesting too much and we don't need that much, they can adjust it.
Okay.
So I think for the last grant we had requested 50,000, we got like 49,750 or something like that. I don't know where that $250 fell off from, but so I think it will depend. And in the way that I have it drafted right now, we can obviously amend it before we submit it, but I have it right now as 25 because it's about half the number of properties. The research will be a lot lighter because it's already mostly done. So.
And so you've done all the proper paperwork to go through the financial office so that they get reimbursed, correct? Is that?
Yes, I submitted that today.
Oh, good. How long does that take?
I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I know that there were maybe a couple weeks. I don't think it takes all that long.
Let's hope. Did you get a chance to look at it? To
I'm
read
about
it?
3/4 of the way through it.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
amazing. Yeah, it is.
The document that has all the properties on it, and I noticed I was going to print it out, and then I said, no, I don't have enough ink for that.
Yeah.
It's online, but if I have to go through it like I'm doing with the state section, I'm going to need paper. I'm going to need it printed out.
Any other comments about this? All right. So speaking about the state grant, the state section, the problem is that there were some inconsistencies in the architectural descriptions, and that's what's taken so long. The committee, Steve, has already gone through 50%, and I've asked him if he could take on another 20%, which he agreed tonight. So we hope that we'll have it all together for December, so we can close out the year with having this grant complete and also the state section complete, and get everything up on the website. Yeah. So it's for the end of the year. Okay. Any other things that we need to discuss? No? All right. Well, with that, it's 10 to 10. I motion to leave.
To adjourn? Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next meeting, which is December 15th.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Guys, next week.